This week I got a special order for some Christmas trees. It was for my mom for Christmas. I was lucky to get some butternut wood. It's the first time I'd ever worked with butternut, and the butternut was spalted, and what a beautiful wood, very beautiful color, some of the prettiest wood I think that I've ever worked with. Stay tuned and see how these Christmas trees turned out. So this week's video will be the last video before Christmas. So for all my loyal subscribers, I thank you very much, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So this week's project, I am going to jump on the bandwagon a little bit. I'm going to be turning some Christmas trees. I know there's a lot of videos out there of people doing this exact thing, but hopefully you'll enjoy it just the same. Now, initially there you can see I was turning it between centers, and I turned a tenon that would fit in my chuck. Now unfortunately it was a little too long, so I just take it over to the bandsaw and shorten it up a little bit. You do not want the tenon bottoming out on the bottom of your chuck. You want it to rest firmly up against the face of the chuck itself, on the top where the jaws are. Once I do that, I tighten it up on my chuck, bring up my live center. Now I am turning this between centers. Sorry, I'm turning it in my chuck, but I'm turning it very fast. This was probably over 2,000 RPM. So I'm just using a parting tool here, and I cut some reference lines. The very first one is the bottom of the base. The next one is the top of the base, and I'm going to leave that natural. I'll leave the bark on if I can, and if not, then I'll still leave it naturally. And then the next line is going to be the bottom of the tree itself. Normally I would have cut this down with my skew or even a gouge, but it's a little too small of an area to get it in there well, so that's why I'm just using my parting tool. And now I'll switch to my bowl gouge, and I just want to shape this as a tapered cylinder. You can see that I'm making an indentation at the top because the very top is going to stay in place because I have an indentation there for my live center. So the top of the tree will be a little bit short of that. So here I am just tapering it down. Again, it's going to be a tapered cone shape. The base of the tree itself is quite a bit smaller in diameter than the base is, and I did that intentionally. I want to give it a little bit of stability, and I like the look of a larger base. Now if you look here, you can see that the wood has actually got quite a shine to it. As I'm pushing the bowl gouge up and making the final cut, it actually burnishes the wood a little bit. If you push in with the heel, especially turning at this high rate of speed, it'll actually burnish the wood and will give you a nice surface right off the tool. But the other problem I had was it was a little wavy from the bowl gouge, so I did take my skew chisel just to go and do a bit of scraping just to flatten the surface out from the bottom to the top. Now that I've got it nice and flat, I'll just make one more finish pass over the whole thing with my bowl gouge. I should also mention that this is actually being recorded in real time. Quite often when I'm recording a bowl, I will do it at 2 times speed, but this is in real time, just to give you an idea of how long it takes to do this. Now I'm starting to cut where the branches are going to be. So now that I've got it a cylinder shape, I just plunge in with my skew chisel to make the branches on the tree itself. Skew chisel is a good tool here because one thing you want to avoid is any chip out on the bottom of the branches, and that's easy to get. So you want a nice sharp skew that you can plunge in and make a nice clean cut. Because I don't want to sand it too much. I want to leave the nice crisp sharp edges to the bottom of each of the boughs. And that really can only be achieved with a nice sharp tool. And here I'm just going by eye, looking at what looks right, how deep to go with each branch. So I'm just kind of looking at the overall appearance on it. It's really a personal preference, what you think looks the best. I try to do an odd number of branches on my tree, and I believe this one has 5. Here you can see this wood. It is a beautiful piece of wood. Not only is it a piece of butternut, but it's also got some spalting in it. And here I'm just cleaning up some of the bottom of those branches where there's been a tiny amount of chip out. And now sanding it. I believe I started at 80 grit and worked my way up to 220. So now that the sanding has been done, I can go back at the trunk of the tree and make that significantly smaller. I didn't want to do that in the beginning, just didn't want to take the risk of it possibly breaking. But now that the majority of the work has been done on the tree itself, I'm safe to cut that down to a small diameter. I still have my tailstock engaged, so it still is supporting it there, as you can see. Now that the trunk is its final diameter, just do some more finish sanding on the rest of the tree. So right there, I was just pointing right on the bottom of that bough. There's just a tiny bit of tear out, chip out there on the edge. So I just use my sharp skew chisel just to clean that up a little bit. So now I'm just doing a final sanding here, just making one final pass. And also here, taking my skew chisel across the base, just to remove any tear out that I had there. Sharp skew chisel cleans that up very nicely. It is end grain, so it is a little more prone to that tear out, but a sharp skew will clean it up. So I am in a chuck. I don't need my tailstock engaged, although I like to keep it as long as possible. You saw there I just trimmed up the top of that tree until the piece at the top stopped turning. With that disengaged, I can do the final sanding on the very tip of the tree. And with that, this tree is pretty well complete. I did end up oiling it, and the wood turned out very beautiful with the oil. It really, really brought out the colors. So I will put some shots up at the end of the complete forest. I ended up doing 6 trees in total, all different sizes. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching my video this week, and I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. As I mentioned, this week I got to work with butternut for the first time, and I was pleasantly surprised at what a beautiful wood it is. You can see here the coloring in it. Now this was a branch, so it had hardwood, and it was also spalted. So beautiful, beautiful wood. I ended up making 6 trees in total, and I made the base a natural edge. Some of it still had the bark on it. Thank you very much for tuning in this week, and I wish all my viewers a very Merry Christmas.